Emily and her two young children, Liam and Sophie, never expected a quiet evening to turn into a nightmare. What began as a simple drive quickly spiraled into a dangerous chase that would put their lives and the entire neighborhood at risk. The evening began quietly in a small, seemingly ordinary suburban neighborhood. The streets were calm, lined with rows of neatly kept houses, their windows glowing softly with warm indoor lights. Most families were finishing up dinner, tucking children into pajamas, and winding down for the night. The scent of freshly mown lawns lingered in the air, mingling with the faint hum of cars passing in the distance. To any casual observer, it was just another peaceful night, one that promised routine and security. But in one house, the atmosphere was far from calm. Inside, a mother moved restlessly, her movements erratic and unsteady. The faint clink of bottles and the smell of alcohol hinted at a struggle beneath the surface, a struggle that had been quietly building for months. Her mind raced with frustration and fear, clouded by the effects of alcohol and the pressures of her daily life. The children played quietly in the living room, unaware of the storm brewing around them. Their laughter and innocent chatter were faintly muffled by the mother's pacing, her thoughts spiraling as she wrestled with a decision that would change everything. In a sudden, impulsive moment, she grabbed her car keys and told herself she needed to drive, to leave the house and clear her head. It wasn't a plan, just a desperate urge to escape her own thoughts, but it carried consequences she could not yet see. Outside, the night air was cool, brushing against her face as she stumbled to her car. The faint glow of streetlights reflected off the pavement, casting long, shifting shadows that seemed almost alive. Neighbors watched from behind drawn curtains, sensing unease but unsure of what was unfolding. A few exchanged worried glances, some considered calling, others hesitated, hoping it was just a brief lapse, not realizing how dangerous it would become. The children, sensing the tension in their mother's voice and the urgency of her actions, followed silently, confused and frightened. They had no idea what was coming, no way to anticipate the chaos that awaited them once the car started moving. In those first moments of departure, the mother's steps were uncertain, the keys shaking slightly in her hand. Each turn of the ignition was a small, almost invisible step toward danger, but in her mind, it was a relief, a temporary reprieve from the weight pressing on her chest. As the engine roared to life, the quiet neighborhood began to stir. The distant sound of tires against pavement echoed off the houses, cutting through the stillness like a warning. It was the beginning of a night that would grip the entire community, a night where ordinary routines collided with unpredictable choices and where the safety of innocent children hung by a fragile thread. What seemed like a simple drive was about to unfold into a series of events no one could ignore, a chain reaction that would leave lasting scars and forever change the lives of everyone involved. The tension in the air was palpable, charged with the uncertainty of what might happen next, each passing second carrying more risk than the one before. The car rolled onto the quiet streets, its headlights cutting through the darkness, casting long streaks of light across the pavement. At first, her driving seemed cautious, almost deliberate, as if she were testing herself and the road. But it didn't take long for her control to falter. The vehicle began to drift within the lanes, swaying from side to side, tires scraping over the painted lines. Street signs blurred past in a dizzying rhythm, each one narrowly avoided. Mailboxes at the edge of driveways shuddered as the car passed too close, the scraping sound echoing faintly into the night. Inside, the children were strapped into their car seats, clinging nervously to the straps as if they could hold themselves together while the car careened forward. Their small faces were pale, wide eyes reflecting the dim dashboard lights, hearts pounding in confusion and fear. Every sudden movement of the vehicle jolted them, and their quiet whimpers punctuated the tension that filled the car. She pressed the accelerator harder, her mind clouded and racing with fragmented thoughts. Each second seemed both urgent and meaningless, her focus shifting erratically from the road to fleeting worries about her life at home. The car picked up speed, and soon it became impossible to ignore the danger she was creating. Neighbors peered through windows, some clutching phones, uncertain whether to call authorities immediately or hope that the moment would pass without incident. A distant horn blared, startling her momentarily, but she ignored it, swerving around the car that had dared to challenge her path. The tires skidded slightly, leaving thin, dark streaks on the asphalt. Panic began to set in, though it didn't slow her. Instead, it sharpened her impulsive determination. The children's cries grew louder, mingling with the screech of tires and the faint metallic rattling from the edges of the car. Outside, shadows of trees flickered across the windshield, bending and twisting with the car's erratic motion. It was a chaotic ballet of light, sound, and motion that no one in the neighborhood could look away from. Somewhere in the distance, the faint wail of sirens began to pierce the night, barely audible at first but growing steadily louder. A dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio as concerned neighbors had called in, describing a reckless driver with children in the car. Police units quickly mobilized, coordinating across streets, anticipating the possible path of the vehicle. Meanwhile, the mother's grip on the steering wheel tightened, knuckles white, yet she remained unsteady, each turn a gamble. The risk of a crash loomed larger with every block, a shadow over the night that grew heavier as the pursuit gained momentum. The tension inside the car was suffocating. The children, holding on to each other instinctively, rocked with every swerve and sharp turn, their cries punctuated by muffled sobs. Outside, ordinary families watched in horror as an ordinary evening transformed into a scene of near disaster. It was a precarious situation, every second feeling like it could be the last. The combination of speed, inexperience, and intoxication created an unpredictable and dangerous course that was impossible to anticipate. Yet, despite the chaos, the mother pressed on, oblivious to the full extent of the danger, driven by a fogged sense of urgency and desperation that blinded her to the world around her. The night had shifted from quiet to tense, from calm to a fragile edge of catastrophe, and every moment brought the consequences of one impulsive decision closer into focus. The sound of sirens grew louder as police vehicles closed in on the swerving car, their flashing lights casting jagged, intermittent beams across the suburban streets. The mother's panic intensified, her movements erratic as she struggled to maintain control. She jerked the steering wheel sharply to avoid parked cars, narrowly missing a fire hydrant that would have sent a fountain of water into the air. Each turn was a gamble, each acceleration a risk she didn't fully comprehend. Behind her, officers coordinated over radios, their voices calm but urgent, mapping the vehicle's path and predicting the next move. Traffic lights changed in a blur of red and green, and she ignored every signal, weaving dangerously between lanes, forcing other drivers to swerve and stop in order to avoid a collision. The children in the back seat trembled with fear, their small hands gripping the straps of their car seats as the car jolted with every abrupt maneuver. Their quiet sobs punctuated the tense night air, an audible reminder of the stakes that grew higher with each passing second. The mother's vision was clouded, her reflexes slowed by alcohol, and yet she pushed on, propelled by an almost desperate refusal to stop. She turned down narrow streets, barely wide enough for her car, brushing past hedges and fences. Each close call sent a fresh surge of adrenaline through her body, heightening both her fear and recklessness. Police units fanned out, trying to contain her path without risking the safety of others. They knew that any sudden move could trigger a catastrophe. Residents stepped outside, frozen in disbelief, watching the scene unfold from driveways and porches. Some had called their neighbors to warn them, others simply stood in silence, hearts pounding as the chase wove through the familiar streets of their community. At one point, the mother attempted to turn onto a busier road, forcing other vehicles to slam on brakes to avoid a collision. Tires squealed, headlights flashed, and the children's cries grew louder, filling the interior with tension and fear. The officers maintained a careful distance, coordinating as a team, instructing each other on how to safely intercept without escalating the danger. Every second was critical, every miscalculation a potential disaster. The neighborhood seemed suspended in time, the usual quiet hum of evening replaced by the chaos of sirens, screeching tires, and panicked voices. The mother's desperate drive showed no sign of slowing. She pressed down harder on the accelerator, as if speed alone could solve the problems she could not face. Shadows danced across the windshield as streetlights flickered by, creating a dizzying sense of motion that matched the turmoil inside her mind. Each officer in pursuit calculated risks, predicting the car's next move, preparing for every possible scenario. The children's sobs mixed with the distant, growing roar of engines and the intermittent voice of police dispatch, creating a tense symphony of fear and urgency. The chase stretched on, testing the nerves of everyone involved. The balance between safety and catastrophe was fragile, the outcome uncertain. Every sharp turn, every near miss, raised the stakes higher. The night had become a dangerous game of chance, and every passing moment brought the community, the authorities, and the children closer to an unpredictable, possibly tragic conclusion. The car suddenly slowed, jerking as if the mother had finally realized the consequences of her actions. The street ahead was empty, dimly lit by a single flickering lamp, and for a brief moment, everything seemed frozen. Her hands trembled on the steering wheel, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins, while the children remained strapped in the back, wide-eyed and quiet after their long ordeal. The sirens behind her drew closer, but she no longer sped recklessly. Instead, she eased the car toward the curb, glancing around as if searching for an escape that no longer existed. The police, trained for such unpredictable situations, approached cautiously, positioning their vehicles to block any sudden moves. Officers called out clear instructions, their voices firm yet calm, creating a controlled perimeter around the car. Every step had to be measured. A single misstep could turn a tense standoff into a tragedy. The mother's breathing was heavy, uneven, a reflection of panic and exhaustion. She seemed caught between the instinct to flee and the dawning realization that her choices could have devastating consequences. Inside the car, the children remained silent, their small bodies tense, holding on to each other for comfort. The fear they had carried during the chase lingered, a heavy weight pressing down on the quiet moments that followed. The mother's eyes darted between the approaching officers and the open street ahead. For a moment, it seemed she might attempt to run again, but then her hands slackened slightly on the steering wheel. Her body trembled as if acknowledging the inevitable. The police waited patiently, maintaining a careful distance, prepared to intervene if necessary. The neighborhood, once quiet and still, now bore witness to the slow resolution of a crisis. Some residents stepped outside, keeping their distance but unable to look away, aware that the danger had not fully passed but sensing that the situation was reaching its tipping point. As officers moved closer, a neighbor who had been observing the car discreetly stepped forward. Calm and measured, this person offered a presence that was steady, almost grounding. The mother, sensing that there was no avenue of escape, finally released the tension that had driven her for miles. She put the car in park and allowed herself to slouch in the seat, the fear and exhaustion evident in every movement. The children were quickly secured by officers, taken gently from the car seats, their small hands shaking but uninjured. The mother was guided out of the vehicle, still unsteady but no longer attempting to resist. The flash of police lights illuminated the scene, highlighting both the danger that had unfolded and the relief that had finally come. What had begun as a reckless, impulsive decision had ended without physical harm, thanks to quick thinking, coordination, and calm intervention. The night air was heavy with tension, the echoes of sirens fading, leaving behind a community shaken but relieved. The mother, the children, and the neighborhood had all endured a night that none would soon forget. A night where danger had been narrowly avoided and the consequences of choices became painfully clear. Even in relief, the memory of the chase, the fear, and the uncertainty hung in the air, a lingering reminder of how quickly ordinary moments can escalate into crises and how fragile safety can be when decisions are clouded by fear and desperation. In the days following the incident, the community was left grappling with a mixture of relief, disbelief, and lingering unease. News of the chase spread quickly, first through concerned neighbors, then across local news outlets, painting a vivid picture of the harrowing night. Police reports confirmed the sequence of events, detailing the reckless driving, the near misses, and the desperate attempts to keep the children safe. Authorities charged the mother with DUI and child endangerment, citing the immense risk she had placed on herself, her children, and everyone on the road that night. The legal process began slowly, with court dates scheduled and social workers assessing the children's needs. Meanwhile, neighbors and friends reached out to support the children, offering temporary care, meals, and companionship, hoping to restore a sense of normalcy after a night defined by fear. Schools and local organizations stepped in, providing counseling and safe spaces for the children to process what had happened. The mother faced not only legal consequences, but also the challenge of confronting her own actions, the reckoning of a decision that had nearly resulted in tragedy. Her struggle became a cautionary tale in the community, a reminder of the consequences of substance abuse and the importance of seeking help before moments of desperation escalate into danger. For the children, recovery was a slow process. They adjusted to temporary routines, surrounded by support systems that emphasized stability and reassurance. Therapy sessions helped them navigate feelings of fear and confusion, allowing them to express emotions that had been too overwhelming to process during the chaos. Friends and neighbors kept a careful watch, offering consistent care and affection, showing that even after a night filled with danger, compassion and community could restore a sense of safety. The mother's situation sparked conversations across households, schools, and workplaces about responsibility, mental health, and support networks. Families discussed the importance of recognizing signs of distress and substance abuse, and neighbors reflected on the delicate balance between privacy and intervention when warning signs appear. Though the night had left scars, it also highlighted acts of courage and presence of mind from police officers maintaining calm under pressure to neighbors who quietly intervened to prevent a worse outcome. Slowly, life in the neighborhood returned to its quiet rhythm. Though the memory of that night lingered, streetlights once again cast familiar patterns on sidewalks, but residents walked with a heightened awareness of how quickly ordinary life could be disrupted. The children began to regain a sense of normalcy, though they carried with them the lessons of resilience and the fragile nature of safety. The mother faced an uncertain future, her path shaped by accountability and the hope that intervention and support could prevent further mistakes. The community, united by the shared experience, remained vigilant yet compassionate, aware that vigilance combined with empathy could prevent tragedy. In reflection, the incident served as a stark reminder of human vulnerability, the consequences of impulsive decisions, and the profound impact that a single night can have on a family and a community. The echoes of fear and relief intertwined, leaving a lasting impression that would shape relationships, choices, and the collective consciousness of everyone who witnessed the events unfold. The story of that night became more than a headline. It became a testament to caution, resilience, and the unexpected ways ordinary people can rise to protect those in danger.